All right. Happy Friday, everybody.
Happy Friday.
Yeah.
And my name is Mother Banjo, one of your hosts for the Back Catalog Listening Party.
My name is Anthony Ihrig, the other co-host.
And today we're joined by Jaspar Lepak from Seattle. Hi, Jasper.
Hi.
Hey, Jasper.
Thanks for the applause. That feels really good.
It warms the heart.
And folks out there are already joining the party nice and early. Christine Lavin, wonderful songwriter, joining us from New York. Alan, one of our regulars from Texas, having a Mai Tai.
time.
You know,
All right.
Alan, you usually are a gin and tonic guy, Alan.
Did
I don't
he go
know,
to Hawaii,
maybe.
though?
Yeah, I think he's trying to keep that Hawaii spirit, aloha spirit alive in Texas. Chris in Savage, Minnesota, and Joe from South Minneapolis having a Goose Island IPA. And Tony, what are you drinking on this Friday afternoon?
Well, I'm staying local. And this is a brewery that I have visited before on the show. Uda Pills. Chris, our friend Chris, knows all about Uda Pills. And last time I had Ewald the Dark. It was like a dark wheat, and this is Ewald the Golden. It seemed like a good transition from early spring to full spring. I don't know where I go from here, but it's a really tasty European-style wheat beer. So, how about you?
Excellent. Yesterday I had kind of a celebration. I'm keeping the party rolling, keeping my birthday celebrations going. And so I have some bubbly, which might be less bubbly now, but still. I have that going, and I even brought snacks today. I wish you guys could have some, but let's see if you can see it without me tipping.
That looks delicious.
It's my birthday brie. Every year my husband gets me, instead of a cake, I prefer cheese. So he gets me a birthday brie. And so I have some cheese and some blueberries and crackers. So.
Well, happy birthday.
Thank you.
Belated birthday to you, Ellen. Mm-hmm. And Jasper, on the West Coast, I believe. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Where are you coming from these
I'm in
these
Seattle.
days? Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
And are you partaking in a beverage today?
Yeah, I'm going to do two. So I've got some rooibos tea. We're talking about my album I made in South Africa today. So this is like a very common thing. It was a theme in my life when I lived there. And then I've got some Sauvignon Blanc. So we'll go back and forth. It's still early, so it's like 2 p.m., but I'm going to try to balance it out.
Well, we appreciate you being here, and cheers to everybody out there for coming to join us. For those of you who are new to the show, we meet here every Friday, and we get together with our favorite musicians, artists, and we listen to music in their back catalog, listen to tunes, hear the songs and stories behind it, and we're really excited to hear the songs and stories behind this one, Jasper. And South Africa, now that is not a typical place for someone to record an album. Can you talk a little bit about that? I'm real curious. Were you living out there at the time? Did you fly out there to record it? What's the story there?
We moved there in 2009. My husband, Cale, does market research, and he worked for a company at the time that had offices all over the world, and he was like, let's take advantage of this and see if I can transfer to a different country, and just we can have an international experience. And it was incredible. So we ended up in Durban, and those are two of the best years of my life. I hadn't intended on recording an album while we lived there, but I wrote lots of songs, all the songs that are on this, and met fabulous musicians, and we made it a few months before we moved back to the States. So
I think we have a couple pictures here from this. This was near your place where you were living here?
No, it was a couple hours away, but that's in the Drakensberg Mountains. I'm laughing because Cale and I went to a little cottage for our anniversary, and it was so beautiful. I'm like, let's do a photo shoot for my album. And he took like hundreds of photos. And I think at the time we still had like a real camera, because we just had those like flip phones that could text. And it was just, and that's so we went on a lot
This is your pet out there?
Yes, yeah.
Obligatory cat photo, yes.
We went on a lot of game drives, and there are so many parks, and it's just an incredible experience. And this is actually from Kruger, one of the most well-known, largest parks in South Africa. And we barely made it in time. They like shut the gates at a certain time every night. So we were staying in the park at a little chalet, and we just barely made it through the gates before they closed, and these lions were just basking on the side of the road. And we had our friend Jessie with us, and she'd been so excited to go see lions. She was visiting from the States, and they just like greeted us when we drove into the park. And yeah, it was pretty fabulous.
Super
I'm very
cool.
proud of that photo.
That's
Although
amazing.
the lion should probably be more proud because he looks good. Yeah.
Well, again, the album that we're going to be talking about that was recorded while you were living in South Africa, Forgiving Wind, came out 2011. So 10 years, 10-year anniversary. And we are really excited to dig into this record. It's actually one of my favorites. And this was, for folks who maybe aren't as familiar with your music, I know we have a few fans who've joined us today, but for folks who aren't familiar with your music, maybe you can give a little background about, 2-minute bio, where you grew up, how you got into recording music, and kind of led up to this record.
Yeah, so I grew up in Tucson, Arizona, mostly. Also spent some time in Scottsdale, Arizona. I always leave that out because I like Tucson more, but I'll say that's where I grew up. And yeah, I moved to the Twin Cities to go to college. I studied English, literature, and writing, and upon graduation had no idea what to do with my life. Like, I'd always wanted to write books, but writing books is really hard. And I had grown up in a pretty conservative religious environment, and I didn't have a lot of confidence in my own voice. I just didn't learn that confidence. And when I started writing songs right after college, it's like I found that thing that gave me confidence in the language. And I'd studied piano for most of my, I started taking lessons when I was 6. I studied through college, so I had like a strong musical background, but I'd never really written music before until I was just before my 22nd birthday. I wrote my first song on July 4th, which is kind of
Really?
fun.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
kind of a cool anniversary.
Yeah, it was a cool anniversary. I my first job with my bachelor's degree was working as a baker at Great Harvest Bread Company. So I had to be there super early in the morning, and I had stayed in that night. I didn't go out to see the fireworks because I wanted to, try to get some rest, and ended up writing my first song, and then just started doing a lot of open mics in Minneapolis. I had super supportive friends. Elle and I met you through our mutual friend Becky, who I worked with at the Tea Garden. And yeah, so performing, writing, it just became this thing that that's what I wanted to do for my career and for my life. And when we went to South Africa, I was excited to see what would happen there. I was also really nervous. I didn't know if I was going to find a community, but I did. And yeah, so.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, let's dig into this record because I'm really excited. These songs are so great. And the first track you picked from this album to feature on the show today is Nothing to Dream. Is there anything you want to say about it before we dive in?
Yes. So it's funny because this Nothing to Dream song, the landscape definitely is Minnesota, but I wrote it in South Africa. So sometimes you have to go away from a place, and yeah. And yeah, I can tell the story maybe before we listen to it. So
Sure.
the theme behind it was just, I had a professor in college who said to me once, as I was just trying to figure out what I wanted to do, this dream of writing had always been so strong in me. And he just said to imagine myself as a 90-year-old woman. And anytime I had a question about what to do and where to put my energy, just think of that lady and what she would tell me and who she would become based on the choices I was making. And I just love that image and thinking about my life that way and kind of checking in with my older self to see what she thinks. And so this song was kind of what if I don't do music? What if I choose a different path and ignore the creative calling that I feel? Who will I become? So the song is a bit sad with an upbeat band backing it, and there you go. I think that's a good story for it.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
great setup. All right, let's give it a listen. This is Jaspar Lepak, Nothing to Dream, here on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
Nothing's clean in this nowhere town. Nothing to hear but an empty sound. Snow is falling soft on a dirty ground. Nothing to dream, nothing to dream. Just a cigarette and a coffee stain, dull gray light through the window pane. Morning comes, always the same. Nothing to say, nothing to say. Time moves on, slow like a wheel, fast like a fire, past what you feel. Dreams die slow, and you don't even know how you let them fall so far behind. Steam is rising from my hands, but me and my coffee ain't making plans. Those days are gone, we understand. Nothing to dream, nothing to dream. A bird flies by, a morning dove. Maybe if I'd been shown just a little more love, just a little more love, maybe I'd fly away, maybe I'd fly away to where the sun rises like a big red ball, to where the clouds are clear and I am here still standing tall. Can't keep the heat inside these walls. Nothing to dream, nothing to dream. Time moves on, slow like a wheel, fast like a fire, past what you feel. Dreams die slow, and you don't even know how you let them fall so far behind. What's wrong, that face ain't mine. Who's a staring back through those worried lines? I used to be so beautiful and bright. Now I'm nothing to see, nothing to see. Never did what I wanted to, never made my big debut. Thought I had just a little more time, but time left me behind. 'Cause time moves on, slow like a wheel, fast like a fire, past what you feel. Dreams die slow, and you don't even know how you let them fall so far behind. Time moves on, slow like a wheel, fast like a fire, past what you feel. Dreams die slow, and you don't even know how you let them fall so far behind, so far behind.
I think you might be muted there, Ellen. But that's Jaspar Lepak, Nothing to Dream, here on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
Yes, I was muted. It's because I was chomping on some cheese earlier, so I didn't want everyone to hear me stuffing my face. But yeah, great tune. And one of the things I love is that when you were talking about the intro for this song and talking about how it's, kind of sad content with an upbeat melody, and I was thinking, yeah, that's kind of like that's Tony and I. That's our wheelhouse with the bluegrass, really sad stories with upbeat melodies. And there is on this record, and we're going to hear it more on some other tracks, kind of bluegrass tinge, a kind of acoustic country kind of vibe to some of these songs. And I was curious, there's certainly a lot of that internationally, but it's such an American sounding kind of music. I'd be curious about how you found the musicians you did in South Africa that were playing this music, and do you just gravitate towards each other naturally?
Yes. So there weren't a lot of folks playing this type of music in Durban. But there was a Durban folk club. I can't even remember how I found it. I think I just saw it listed in the paper, and the address for it was like within walking distance from where we were living, which was ridiculous. Like it shouldn't have been that easy. So it met in like it was kind of like a community clubhouse, and Kale and I went there, and it was really fun. We met one of the organizers, Joe Hansen. He went by Screaming Doc Hansen.
That's a good folk name there.
Yes. Yeah. And he kind of connected me to everybody. I was thinking about this. Like I met him and he just connected me to most of the people who played on the album and helped really jump-started that community for me in Durban, and I'm just so grateful for him. And so the night that we went to the Durban Folk Club for the first time, the Bandits were playing, and it was a bluegrass band.
Oh, cool.
And they were like singing about Alabama, and I'm like, what? Gail and I are looking at each other going, what? We just moved here.
You're getting that real South African flavor, right?
Yeah. So I talked to them afterwards, and Brian Eaton, who plays banjo, became a part of my band. And so he just loves bluegrass music, and feels like that's his soul sound. So you can see him playing the banjo there. And he and his wife own a guest lodge, and he invited me and Kale to visit, and we did, and ended up just like playing music in the bar a few nights in a row, I think, and it was just kind of magical. And he just had bluegrass and country music going on the speakers at the bar at the guest house constantly. So yeah, we just kind of ran into each other. Joe Screamin' Doc Hansen also set up a dinner for me to meet Richard Haslop, who plays the dobro on Nothing to Dream, which you just heard. So he played dobro and mandolin in that photo. He's on mandolin, and just the loveliest human. I feel so grateful. There he is. Yeah. So he played with me and brought all those sounds. I don't know. He's so eclectic. He had a radio show he was hosting for a long time. He does reviews for music. He's just kind of everywhere in the music world. And
were these guys native from? Were they from South Africa? Or
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, interesting. Yeah, so there is a scene. There is a little bluegrass scene out there.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And tell us who else is on the record. I also saw, let's see, on the right, that's Kale, your husband, playing accordion and singing. And was he singing on that last track?
Yes, he was. And that was fun too. He got that accordion a couple months before we moved. I think his mom found it in her great aunt's basement while they were like moving her into a different living setting, and he's like, sure, I'll take that. And he started playing it, and on a whim, we brought it with us, which sounds kind of it feels crazy in retrospect. Because
if you're taking an international trip, like, don't forget the accordion.
Right. Yeah.
Right now, that's funny.
And it wasn't even something like he played a lot of. It was more like, maybe we'll do. So like while we were there in those 2 years, he played a lot of accordion, started singing with me a lot. I think before we moved, he sang and played on like 1 or 2 of my songs. So that kind of cemented our musical relationship that time together. Yeah, and then, so Sean Ross, who's there on bass, I also met him through the Durban Folk Club. He was my neighbor. Like, he lived 2 houses down.
Wow, picked the right neighborhood.
And what was crazy was that a woman Kale worked with introduced us to her friends who were renting their garden cottage in their backyard. So we lived in this, like, tiny 300 square foot like rectangle with like a big yard space that was shared, and so it just felt like I don't know, the universe was looking out for us and people were connecting us to really good people. And yeah, so Sean was also at the Durban Folk Club listening, and I think he heard me play the first time I played there. And afterwards he's like, I really love your music. Can I play, I play bass. Can I play with you? And I was like, yeah, let's try. And so that was amazing too. Like, and he's gone on to do some really cool things. I've just been aware of the music he's creating recently. So yeah, there he is. And I think you had Rowan Stewart up in the other picture. So he is a singer-songwriter. Again, Screaming Doc Hansen introduced me to him. He's like, let's go see Rowan play at this restaurant. And we did. And Rowan is so talented. I don't know if I've ever seen anyone play the guitar like him. I just don't know if I ever have or ever will. He's just so good. And his songwriting is really... It's so like, it's poppy and wise, and he kind of has been playing around a lot with different sounds to go with his songs. So one of his more recent albums sounds like something I would just love to dance to in a club. But then like he had me record on harmonies on one of his songs that was a more folky album. And yeah, he's just super talented. And we did a lot of co-bills together while I was there, and teamed up on harmonies and stuff. So please check out his music if you haven't. Yeah.
Very cool. Well, we can link to that in the show notes.
Yeah.
And all these musicians. It sounds like a cool little scene you had.
Yeah, I've got two more I can talk. Well, so the Sean Lovell also was a singer-songwriter I met in Durban, and he played some djembe. I think he's in a different picture that you have.
I think we might have one. Let's see here. Is that him?
There he is. Yep.
We'll see if we can,
Yeah.
blow him up here. You can see a little bit of what is that, cajon or djembe or something?
Yeah, I think it was a djembe. Yeah, and then we also did some shows together, and then I also Nibs Vanderspey, who wasn't able to be. I don't think I have any photos. I'd have to really dig. You know what's funny? I remembered like while we lived there, I couldn't take pictures on my phone, so I just don't have that many pictures because. Yeah, I got my first smartphone after we returned. But yeah,
Did you say his name was Nibs?
Nibs.
Oh man, these are some great folk names.
Yeah,
I love it.
He lived in a house on a road called Far Away Place or Far Off Place.
What?
It's just like it was so
No way.
You gotta go see Nibs down on Faraway Place. That sounds like the beginning of a great folk record right there.
I know.
Yeah.
And I took guitar lessons from him, actually. He's also a brilliant guitar player and songwriter, and check out his work. He has so many albums that are just beautiful. So he played on a few songs as well.
This is so awesome. And I want to ask, we had a lot of shots from that. I think it was your release show. And I'd love to know where those were taken.
Yes. So,
because that's not your average folk or bluegrassy backdrop. It looks pretty pro.
it was pro. I can thank Rowan for like teaming up with me. We did a co-bill at the Barnyard Theater, and he had a relationship with the venue. And it was, a really professional theater. I think it had room for maybe 500 people. It was in the mall.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Durban has a mall called Gateway that just is like amazing. It has like a water park in it. There's like an outdoor music venue. They had it. The Barnyard Theater was their indoor music venue. I think it doesn't exist any longer. But the second day we were in Durban, someone from Kale's office took us out shopping and brought us to Gateway, and it was just like, oh my god, like there's just madness how big it was and how many shops there were. And so it had like a barnyard kind of theme. I think they had hay bales in it, if I'm remembering. But
well, for those of you who aren't watching this, it does look like the spectacular venue, and you can't see the hay bales. And Jasper actually sent pictures. This is one of the pictures that came, and I just assumed that this that this was where it was, this giant stadium. This was not the venue, though, correct, Jasper?
No, that's the soccer stadium. So I sent that picture because we were there during the World Cup when South Africa hosted, and they built this stadium, and it was just along the beachfront here. I mean, this was like right off the beach, so you could just walk for miles along the beachfront, restaurants, all kinds. It was just so beautiful. So,
and I'm betting that soccer stadium probably had a lot of big capacity.
Oh, yeah. I would love. I was thinking about it, like while we were living there. Neil Diamond played there. I didn't
wow.
go see the show, but
Nice.
So maybe in the future, Jaspar
Yeah.
Lepak will also be featured at the soccer stadium in Durban, South
that would
Africa.
be amazing.
Yeah.
I'd take it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, your new album, Desert Ghosts, it's been riding the folk radio charts here in the U.S. So you never know. Maybe that will skyrocket you to fame back in South Africa, where you lived when you made this record. If folks just tuned in to Back Catalog Listening Party, we're talking with Jaspar Lepak. She's joining us today from Seattle and revisiting her record that came out 10 years ago, Forgiving Wind. It was recorded when she lived in South Africa. And we've been talking a little bit about the musicians and the scene there. And if you have questions for Jaspar during the show or comments, feel free to throw them in there and we'll get to as many questions as we can. But right now, let's dive into another song from the record.
Let's do it. So the title track
Yeah.
is up next. Anything you want to say about that before we dive in?
Sure. I think, so Durban is on the Indian Ocean, and I'd never lived on the water before. I mean, I've lived close to lakes, but not the same thing. So, yeah, and it just felt, that whole 2-year period felt very healing. I think there was just such a realness in everybody we met. It didn't feel like, I don't know, it didn't feel like people had facades or you had to upkeep like an image. Maybe, at least for me, it just felt like everyone was so raw and real and so interested in who we were, and the music that I played. And it just felt, I don't know. I just felt like I belonged in a way I hadn't before. And I felt like I could be myself in a way I hadn't before. And that ocean wind, I'm going to say, was pretty healing. And the story in this song is just, comes from just a period like shortly before we moved where it felt like I was kind of coming more into my own voice and kind of shaking up some relationships I had by like being more present in who I was. And that was hard because I felt like I was hurting people as I was growing. And so this song just kind of was my way to explore that emotional landscape, I guess.
Excellent. Well, this is Jaspar Lepak, Forgiving Wind, here on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
I can't escape the things I break. Nothing ever dies. I've been folding thoughts like aeroplanes, but they won't fly. With heavy stones inside my shoes, I walk with my regret. Either be loved or live to tell the truth. There's no duet. Hold me now. Hold me now. Forgiving wind of love blowing, and hold me now. the sky. I'm no fool to think you'll hear them now, but they will fly. Hold me now. Hold me now. Forgiving wind of love blowing, and hold me now. Forgiving wind of love blowing, and hold me now.
All right, Jaspar Lepak with Forgiving Wind, the title track to her 2011 release that we are revisiting today in the back catalog listening party. And this time I'm not on mute, I think. So I think folks actually heard me when I said that.
Yeah, beautiful
and,
tune.
Yeah, and folks loving that song. And Alicia.
Yeah, that's Alicia Healy, who recorded Desert Ghosts with me. And
Yeah,
his
so
bass
that's Jaspar's new record, which
Yes.
is if you like actually the feel of this record, you'll probably really like Desert Ghost. It has a similar kind of vibe and instrumentation to the new record. And we should just mention that if you like the album we're featuring today and want to explore by that and check out Jaspar's new record as well, you can do that on Bandcamp. And because it sounds great, just
Really
all the
does.
instruments, especially on that track, hearing the interplay with the mandolin is so beautiful. And then when the banjo comes in, Tony and I were pretty psyched about that.
Yeah, right.
You know.
No, but I'm curious, obviously these were people that you just kind of met. This is something I'm always interested in when it comes to, especially like kind of singer-songwriter, folks that enter into a band context. Was there a lot of direction on your part with the musicians that recorded with you, or did you work on the songs together? Did you just go into the studio and say, do your thing? What was your process here?
It was pretty organic. Basically, I just met these people, as we were living there, and then we did shows together for about a year before we recorded. So we had a lot of live performances that we practiced for, and by the time we got into the studio, we mostly knew what we liked, and it was just lovely to be working with people who brought themselves so fully to these songs. So I think, this album is just so special because I just hear, I feel those relationships, and I just hear all these players' voices on this music, and it really felt like I'd written the bones to these songs, and they just filled it all in with these beautiful sounds. And
Nice.
yeah.
Yeah, really great. And we got a bunch of questions from folks out there listening today to the back catalog listening party. Connie wanted to know about the cover art, and it's beautiful. And was this a local artist who did the work?
This is my friend Amelia. She was Amelia Smith when I met her. She's Amelia Pallet now. And she had a little art business called Whimsy. And how did I meet her? I met her at a party, like a birthday party maybe. And I just kind of gravitated toward her, and we hung out a bunch, and I discovered her beautiful art. And I want to pull up her website right now. I'm not sure if it's still up or what she's doing right now, but she just had these beautiful whimsical prints, and this was one of her prints that she was selling. And I said, would you be up for letting me use that for album art and kind of blending it with these photographs? So she just did this stunning job, and she's a person who's just super connected to nature and spends all her free time hiking. So I was so excited that everything about this album was local.
Yeah, and I love the image of the birds coming, the music turning into birds. It's just beautiful. And those mountains, those look a lot like these mountains.
Yeah.
So is this the same mountain range, or is it did you just use that as an inspiration for the cover art?
The mountains are the same. I'm not sure if it's the same photo. Yeah. It's one of the photos from that photo shoot that
Interesting.
she blended. Yeah, because the back of the album, That's I think that was maybe one of the pictures you had, but there we go. Yeah, so maybe it was part of this picture.
Yeah.
I don't
Cool.
know. Yeah.
Very cool. And then also Joe had a great question. He said lots of excellent metaphors, images, and such. Do you have some favorite poets? And this leads into something that I think is really interesting because, of course, you have the writing background that you mentioned at the top of the show. Yeah, do you have any favorite writers or poets in particular that influenced this record?
Yeah. William Stafford is a poet that I read a lot of in college, particularly. I think Rumi is a big. I don't spend. I'm like embarrassed to say I should spend more time reading poetry. I think a lot of my poetry comes from music and listening that way. But one of the songs that are we ready to play it?
Sure, this might be a good segue.
No. Maybe are we gonna wait for the end?
It's totally up to you. If you
Yeah,
want to
we
wait,
can pull
we
an
can
audible.
tease it.
we
tease
sure
it.
could.
Yeah. Let's
Okay.
tease it. Okay.
Okay. So we will be hearing a song inspired by a Rumi poem, I believe, a little bit later in the show. So, but also I know that you are working a lot with authors these days in what you're doing in Seattle. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Because I know you have an event coming up on May 22nd that's related to this.
Yeah. So I've been a part of the Bushwick Book Club in Seattle for, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 years now. And we are a group of songwriters who write songs inspired by books. And it's been so fun. I do it about once or twice a year. I've written a lot of songs inspired by books. My favorite that I've written so far is Dandelion, which I was inspired by The Handmaid's Tale. That was that song's on my most recent album. But the one that we're doing for actually next Saturday, the 22nd, we're doing the book Like a Mother by Angela Garbus. And I wish it's like upstairs. I would like run and grab it and show you. But it's a book that was like so empowering, like about motherhood. Like she has a whole chapter on like breast milk, the placenta, like miscarriage, like just everything that women go through that isn't like talked about so openly and with so much research and science behind it. So I'm like working on 2 songs right now. I don't know what's going to end up for Saturday. They're close, but yeah. So I don't know. It's been such a fun group to be a part of because the songs that have come out of it, I never would have written, and it's, I like all of them. So and the people I've met through it are incredible too. So
That's great.
And if folks are interested in this live stream, they can learn about it on your website, which we're linking here in the comments. So
yes.
Yeah, May 22nd. You can hear maybe some new songs inspired by this book. And I know that you are also a mother, and which might make writing and balancing all of that pretty interesting these days, being at home. But it's great to see that you are getting so much new material. Is really exciting. So
deadlines help. Like the anxiety of like having to perform something in front of people. Like. Yeah, on a certain date. It gets songs written.
It gets things done.
It does
That's
create
right.
a lot of anxiety.
Well, when you were writing this record for Giving Wind, you were not a parent yet, and you probably had a lot more time on your hands. Did you find that you wrote differently during that time?
Yeah, I mean, I was spending most days writing. I wasn't legally allowed to work while we lived in Durban, so I was working on writing music, and I was in the middle of an MFA in creative writing from Hamlin in St. Paul, and I did a couple classes while I was in Durban. So I had a really nice rhythm there. I miss it.
Yeah, to be able to just write and have more headspace and explore and all those great things. Well, let's dig into another one of these songs then that you wrote while you were living in South Africa. This is I Know a Woman. What can you tell us about this song?
This song started as a letter. I got a letter from a friend, and she was describing just some hard stuff that she was going through. And it was stuff that I was also going through. And I just wanted to tell her how powerful she was. I think both she and I have struggled like being sensitive people. I think, sensitivity, vulnerability has been, it was communicated, like we were told our whole lives that was weakness, right? And so to like embrace the power of those things, I wanted to write a song that just embraced the power of the feminine. And I'll throw up another book. I was reading this book at the time, which is probably one of the most transformational books I have read. Sue Monk Kidd wrote The Secret Life of Bees. That's how people are more familiar with her. And it's just her journey out of a patriarchal like religion into a more feminine spirituality. And there's a part in here where she realizes that all her life in church, she'd only heard the male pronoun. And when she realized that, it just broke her heart. And it's like, I'm reading that, I just like started crying because the feminine is just missing. And it's missing in such a huge way that we don't even, like we realize it on an emotional level, but we're not aware of how much hurt and pain that causes. So I wrote this song and I performed it for the first time in front of a pretty big audience. It was a show that was taking place at a museum. They hosted live music and they moved us onto the roof because we had more people RSVP than could fit in their normal music room. This is the Ponce Museum. And I remember singing it and feeling like, oh, I hope people like this song. Like, it's really vulnerable, but I'm sure everyone already knows this stuff. Like, maybe it's nothing new. And afterwards, I just had like a handful of women come up and give me hugs, and they were crying, and they're like, that really, really just got to me. And that song has just been so powerful for me and then for audiences. And yeah, this is a really special. I was so happy when I found this picture because I was like, yeah, that's.
And this is a picture of the very first time that you played it.
Yeah, this was not. I mean, it's a solo song, but this is from the show.
Very cool. What a special memory to have.
Yeah.
Captured. Well, should we give it a listen?
Yeah. Sorry, I talk a lot.
No, not at all. This is great. And actually, just for those who are just listening in, can you repeat the title of that book? I don't think we got the title of that book.
Yeah, it's called The Dance of the Dissident Daughter by Sue
Excellent.
Monk Kidd.
And thank you. We'll also link that in the show notes, but I think that's really great. This is Jaspar Lepak. I Know a Woman on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
I know a woman who feels every moment with sorrow and joy. She is blown by the wind. Her heart moves so quickly, it tires her to follow. But this world wasn't made for such sensitive things. And I want to sing her a song that will free her to feel what she feels without judgment or shame. All of her power right beside all her pain. And I know a mother who cannot remember. She died to the dreams she once carried inside. And she raised a daughter who cannot forgive her for failing to lead her with wings into life. And I want to sing her a song that redeems her for all that she is that she hasn't become. As she lived for her father, then husband, then son. And Eve, blessed mother of all of creation, they punished you when you reached out for the truth. And all of this violence we witness toward women is the shame we still carry for wanting the fruit. And I want to sing her a song that will bring her into a world where her reach can be wide, free to take what she wants and to never be shy. So alone. They tell us our sadness is private depression, but our mother's submission is centuries old. And I want to sing you a song that weeps with you for all that you lost as you try to be good, living the life that a good woman should. And I will not worship the gods of my fathers. I will call to my mother for her to provide. She carries the seasons inside her emotions. The wind is her song and the moon is her guide. And I want to sing her a song that relieves her from the weight she has borne just for bearing a child on a river that's deep in a current so wild. Creation is waiting for us to employ it, to reach with our hands and dig deep in the earth. The dreams of a woman are never indulgent, still they teach us to harden the pains of our birth. And I want to sing you a song that receives you as you wake to a world where you're second to none, where your life is your song and your song will be sung.
That was Jaspar Lepak with I Know a Woman from her 2011 release, Forgiving Wind, which we have been revisiting today on Back Catalog Listening Party. And if you like what you hear, and Penny does, and a lot of other folks do too, you can throw something in Jaspar's tip jar, because, you know, she's not playing so many shows. She has a few live streams though coming up, which you can check out on her, find out info on her website. But again, artists really relying on tips and things like that. So you can do that. You can also buy the record. And that song is so beautiful. And it was interesting seeing the photo of the whole band playing with you the night you played that song. But of course you recorded it. It sounds like it was just you playing on that track.
Yeah, I mostly, I mean, the night that I first sang it, I did play it solo. And I mostly performed it solo. Recently I've had people join me. Sometimes Kale plays accordion and sings harmonies. And I performed it a few times with my trio that formed right before COVID, so nobody knows about us, Raising Hazel. And with 3-part female harmonies, which is really, really pretty too. Yeah. So
wonderful. Well, we have one more song to get to, which we're going to squeeze in before the end of today's show. And this is inspired by a poem. I know we were talking about this earlier. Joe had asked about poets that have been inspiring to you, and this is inspired by a Rumi poem.
Yeah. So one of my teachers gave this to me, the same one who told me that to think of myself as a 90-year-old woman when I was trying to make choices. He gave me some really good things that have been big influencers. So he gave me this poem called The Guest House, and I'll just read it to you. It's fun to read. Okay.
Nice.
This being human is a guest house. Every morning, a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness. Some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all, even if they're a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture. Still, treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. And at the time, I was having such a hard time allowing emotions like sadness and anger into my world, because I had been taught not to. Like, don't ever express those things. You're not even supposed to feel them. And so, yeah, this poem has been like in my kitchen for like 20 years on a little like collage thing that I made at the time that my teacher gave that to me. And I just, wrote it to like welcome in, like make a welcoming space for the night, for those darker, more difficult emotions. And what's really interesting about, at least for me, when I started doing that, I started writing songs shortly after that. So just making space for those feelings opened up this whole new world for me, and I'm so grateful.
Wonderful. Well, let's take a listen to it now.
All right. This is The Night here on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
There's a powerful truth in each little heart, unbreakable proof of light in the dark. I know that it's hard sometimes. There are so many stars in the sky. When the night comes closing in, don't be frightened, it's where you begin. There's a possible way in every mistake. It's not how it ends, it's the chance that you take. I know that it's hard sometimes. There are so many ways to survive. When the night comes closing in, welcome the darkness, your most faithful There's a price that you pay for being alive. It's all that you have and the strength to be kind. I know that it's hard sometimes. There are so many reasons to cry. When the night comes closing in, don't be surprised that it's found you again.
Oh, beautiful stuff. That is Jasper
Gorgeous.
Lepak with The Night. And yeah, Chris loving it. He said we just ordered a CD. I know Anne also did during the show. So, folks, you can get that at Bandcamp and support Jasper's music. Of course, her other titles there, as well as her new record, Desert Ghosts, which I've been listening to a lot lately. And yeah, The Night. Beautiful stuff. This has been so much fun to revisit this record. It came out 10 years ago. It's hard to believe.
Crazy.
But it's sounding fantastic. So
It's gorgeous. Yeah.
thank you so
Great
much for sharing
songwriting.
these stories too. And you know, I've known you for a long time, Jasper, and I've been a fan of this record for a while. But you know, I don't think I'd ever heard a lot of these stories about meeting the musicians and how you recorded the record. So this has been a real treat.
Oh, good, good. And I just, we sign off, I just want to also mention Brent Quinton, who recorded the album at his studio in Durban. And we did it in about 2 weeks. And it was just, he was came as a recommendation from Rowan, who I played with. And he added like drums and I don't know, just a lot of magic. So I didn't mention him yet. I just wanted to make sure I did.
Nice. Well, the production is great, and as Ellen said, you're going to want to get it on CD or at least download the high resolution WAV files because it sounds fantastic. Beautiful record.
Yeah. Yeah. Great stuff. And thank you all for joining us today because what makes this hour so special, in addition to our guests like Jasper, is you being out there listening, asking questions, having a drink with us, and kicking off the weekend right. So thank you all. If you like what you heard, like the episode. It will help the bots direct more people to Jasper's music and videos. And you can also subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you get alerted about all of our future shows. And we have a little thing to tease, right? Right,
yeah.
Tony?
Well, maybe not so little.
Not so little. It's big news. Yeah.
Yeah. We're really excited to invite one of our favorite songwriters, Minnesota native Charlie Parr is going to be coming up in an upcoming episode, and he agreed to hang out and do an after party for our Patreon supporters. So. That's really exciting for us because I mean for us this is all about just hanging out together and talking shop and being together with the community and we started this show to kind of keep the community together at a time when we couldn't be together, and it's really turned into something special. So I want to give a big shout out to all of our Patreon supporters. So we started a Patreon not too long after we started the show, and I want to give a big thanks to Penny and Ann, Linda, Bevan, Connie, Vaughn, Alan, Chris, Alex, Becky, Galen, Peggy, Joe, Jim, Beverly, John, Fred, Tim, Sarah, David, Jocelyn, and Court, and as Ellen, you say most weeks, maybe you.
That's right.
You want to come hang out with all of these wonderful people and Charlie Parr. You can sign up to become a member of our Patreon community. It's just patreon.com/Back Catalog Listening Party. But most of all, we just appreciate you being here week after week. I know things are opening back up and people are going out and about, but I tell you what, I am so excited that this is still on my calendar every week. It's such a great excuse to do this long lost art of listening to music together. It's one thing to sit in your room and put on the headphones, but another thing to actually be in community and listen to it and share that music at the same time.
And take the time to really dive into a record, which I think is something that in this day and age we don't do enough of. So it's been such a treat to do that with all of you, and today with Jaspar.
Yeah.
And I also want to say that as things open up, we encourage you to see live music, and know that if you ever miss an episode, you can always check it out later on YouTube and share it with your friends. But we intend to keep this show going. It's for us at 4 p.m. on a Friday, it just kind of kicks off your night. So if you're going out to see live music, great. Last
Yes.
week I went off to play my first show,
There you
and
go.
it worked out great. So, but mainly we just want to thank you all for being here. And again, Jaspar, thank you for spending
Thank
this
you,
hour with
Jaspar.
us.
Yeah, and those stories were fantastic, and it really does give a different appreciation to the songs. And
Thanks for this opportunity. I just feel so happy. So nice to hang out with you guys. It's just good.
well, likewise. And we want
Mm-hmm.
to remind folks that Jaspar's got some live streams coming up, and you can go to her website, which we have on the screen here and in the comments, and check those out.
And a little birdie told me that you might even, I know we have a lot of folks who live here in Minnesota, and you are going to actually be playing some live shows here later this summer, right?
Yeah, I'll be at Lake Harriet on
the
August
Banjo.
23rd at the Banjo, one of my favorite venues in the
Oh,
world.
that's-
I love that place. Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, we will see you there. We're very excited for that. And all of you out there, have a wonderful music-filled week. Hope you get out to see some shows. And
Yeah.
we'll see you back here next week for another edition of the Back Catalog Listening Party.
All right. Cheers. See you next week.
Cheers, everybody.